Hi everybody, how you doing? And like I said about the short yesterday, I am going to go over each school today, starting with fire. Um, Here's mine. I am doing these each. I'm putting the vote videos of each school each hour. So balance is the last thing because balance is the most important one. Fire is a attacker school, just attacker. Even though it doesn't look like it because there's our dot spells, but fire is the only school that's just one role of just attacker. Basically, what makes fire unique is you could try to be the underdog. You can try if you are not going to go with the traditional way. But what makes fire also unique is they're 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 basically the school that just that takes time to like set up a plan most of the time. Um, Another thing is, are they going to continue to be attacker in the future? Yes, because there was just evidence that with like the layer on worlds that it makes sense. And even the toughest world, basically, you still are attacking. It makes more sense if you just attack instead. Basically, reason why fire is like probably like the most odd is because just more of like the mains themselves. And it's kind of why the fire doesn't really feel like great a little bit. And also there are some people who has phobia or has PTSD of fire. So fire school happens to be the only school that helps them cope a little bit. Trust me, if you know me by now, one of my family members actually had PTSD with about fires, so it's kind of why it's kind of not easy for some people. So it's kind of why fire is kind of more of just the most cope school they could go with. If it's not like to tolerate in real life, like if it's too much, basically. Um, Even if there are some disappointing spells like the Lumeria fire spell where it's just an AoE dot that can detonate in the fifth round, every fifth round, only the fifth round after it gets cast a while ago. But still, it is a very unique spell if you think about it, because it just tells you can detonate them all if you want. At what price though? Basically. What is the worst fire spell if you're wondering? Is the stun spell, if I'd be honest. The stun spell is the worst. What is the best, quickest way to get the battle done spell? It's dragon. If you can't tell by now. If you're asking like what's the best spell to like deal with the shields, that be either volcano or the spells that have dots. Basically, they're the best to deal with those shields. And what makes fire unique is they have the most dot spells in the schools, the most dots. And there's nothing wrong with that at all, because I used it often, even though some people question me sometimes. But it's just a lot better. But is there a way for fire to actually do something other than just hitting? Yes. If you've been on my channel before, you will actually look back and see notes that aren't like going to make you guarantee a hitter sometimes. But for you to do that, you gotta willing to risk like hitting all the time to just where you're hitting only when you need it to, basically. Um, Take for example my old fire, who is a tank who balances everything, from healing to prepping to tanking to hitting, who is like a real balance. I happen to make. Reason why I am good at balance is because I learned every school, even the schools I hate. Um, the school people reason why most people would well, I'm not going to explain balance just yet. But my fire site schools have to be life and balance. And the reason why it works is because my fire happens to be more of a passive attacker. So it's just my fire wants to put others first before themselves, which is something I'll eventually mention. Sorry for my accent. So basically, I know it's a ramble right now, but I'm trying to teach a little bit. Um, what's the best thing you can do if you don't want to be a very aggressive fire? Um, I would say just grab elemental blades, spiritual blades, necklaces that have balance blades, or gear that has balance blades, or just TCs. I would also just recommend like going with life school if you want to like be passive more and just worry about others, so the others have a chance to hit or get credit, that kind of stuff. Basically, it's more selfless. It's if you're very selfish, you're not going to like make sure the others are okay first. Often, if you're very selfless, you're going to be, well, even though it's not selfish to get rid of the enemies quickly, but it can be if it's in the wrong. If you're like with a group, if you're by yourself, then there's just not really need much. Um, it just depends. What side schools will help you a lot, and which ones will just plumb you down? The only school that will plumb you down is Ice on Fire, because I am a myth main, and because I calculate in my mind and I always study the books written inside my head. Basically, I know a lot of people question like, yeah, myth are more jocks. It depends on who is a myth. I'm more of the nerdy myth main, and all I can say is fire. Ice will not help fire much. I mean, it'll give them shields, but that's about it. And I'll say Ice is the worst school to go with, unless it's the only school that you're able to cast. To test out your side schools, you need to test them not in Unicorn Way. They put the hunters in accuracy on there now. So I recommend you testing it in Front Avenue, Firecat Alley, or Cyclops Lane. Those are good starts to test out what your side schools are. The best side school, I would say, for fire, if you want to be aggressive, or help the more aggressive player in some way, is just go balance, storm, or life. Or death. Those are very helpful. I mean, sometimes you can go with myth. It just depends. Reason why I said Ice is the only school that doesn't help fire much is because it's something to do with like the logic. You know how fire and ice are opponents of each other, right? And myth logic, the opposite of what they like a lot is, for ice and fire, it's healing. So it's kind of pointless if you think about it. It's kind of pointless. So just a heads up. You guys are kind of like tired of me rambling on this one. But I'm just going I'm trying to explain a little bit in case you guys are confused why I mentioned certain words. Anyways, and myth are kind of helpful in some way for fire, but it's not always. Because sometimes they will just leave them with a question mark, like, what? Anyways, hopefully you guys have a great day, okay? This is the fire one. See you guys next time.